What's going on, Washington fans? Welcome to the JTFB YouTube channel and here on Taking Command with Josh Taylor, where I cover all things Washington Commanders. Appreciate all the new subscribers and everyone blowing up the latest videos with my blueprint to the 2023 offseason for Washington and what they really should do. And the first thing on the list was upgrading at offensive coordinator, which we plan to do. And that was my last video, really just talking about Scott Turner being fired, but then also giving you some replacement options to keep an eye out for the search for our new offensive coordinator. But the offseason is beginning. It's going to be a crazy offseason. There's going to be a lot to talk about, a lot to do. And a lot of y'all know this, but I've been covering the NFL draft for the last 3 or 4 seasons now. I've done the Scouting Academy last time. I'm currently in it again, trying to finish that up and really get my name out there, for more getting a football career right now. But I've learned a lot through that, and I really enjoy breaking down these players, and I've been interviewing players over the last few years, going to a lot of the Senior Bowls, actually going back there this year. This is my 3rd one. I might be 4th one. I can't remember. But anyways, I'll be there just 3 weeks, which is crazy. So I'm going to have to do a video breaking down some of the prospects for the Senior Bowl too. But I really got to thinking as I do these Washington mock drafts, of course, there's a lot that's going to change over the next few months until the NFL draft. But I got to thinking, what if the NFL draft was the first big event of the new league year? So what is it? March 15th is when the first day of the new league year happens, and then you start getting all the trades, free agency happens, and so on, releases, whatever. What if the draft was the first thing that happened, then free agency happened, then all the trades happened? That would be pretty crazy. So I want to do something a little bit different and just kind of think about, kind of break down the thought process with the current situation for Washington, some of these players, whether it's where they need help, whether it's contracts coming up, possible trades and stuff like that, but how Washington would really go about this draft and how the draft would influence the moves that we would make before the 2023 season. So super excited to take a look at all this. Let me bring in the screen. Of course, I use PFN right now for my mock draft simulator. I think it's really accurate. Draft Network's working on theirs currently. They're updating everything. It's kind of taking a while, but nonetheless, I like PFN. They're bringing up more scouting reports and so on. So like I said, that's something I'm working on. So subscribe to the channel. And my new show, The Draft Board, will be premiering very soon, where I show you all 22 film, really break down these traits, pros, cons of these guys. Individually, so not just Washington, but just individual players and what I like about them, things they need to work on, things I don't really like, and then just my projections for them in the NFL and where I think they'll go in the NFL draft. So stay tuned for that. The first thing I always do is do a quick trade with San Francisco for pick 98, because Washington, as of right now, will be getting a 3rd round comp pick, and that's not in here yet. So I just kind of compensate and get a 3rd round pick around where it's going to be. So I just trade whatever for next year. So let's start the draft, take a look at what we have, and you just never know what to expect from these things. I'm not going to be doing any trades, by the way. Just going to let it roll. So, I mean, right off the jump, you see Peter Skronsky got taken. Will Levis is gone for those that want to. Will Levis, I surely don't. So let's take a look at what we have over here. You do have some premier corners like Joey Porter Jr., Cam Smith, Brian Branch, who plays that star position for Alabama. It's like a slot corner / money backer role. He's one of my favorites. Love Brian Branch, not just because I'm an Alabama fan. Christian Gonzalez, Michael Mayer, Broderick Jones. And that's as far down as I'm going. So my thing that I'm always struggling with is, do you go get a premier corner 1 in this draft in round 1, or do you take an offensive lineman? Because we know we got to build up that line, but the corner position is so important in the NFL. And I think Kendall Fuller will be back 1 more year. I think he's going to start on that outside again. You know, when I talked to him back in April, I have the interview at the bottom of this channel, so just scroll down if you want to find it. When I talked to him, he said at this point in his career, he thinks he's best outside. You know, he's played, the free safety spot. He's played in the nickel throughout his career when he was at Kansas City and here. But he thinks right now in his career, he belongs outside. And I think the last 2 seasons have really shown that, especially this year. Some big-time pick sixes, some interceptions, pass breakups, so on. I think he looks really good outside. So the question is, who plays a slot? Is it Bobby McCain? Do you move on from Bobby McCain? Is it going to be Rashad Wildgoose? Like, do you trust that as your slot option? And what about St. Juice? Has he solidified himself as a is a sure outside starting corner. I don't know. I think he's looked good in a lot of moments. That Minnesota game, I think he really held his own against Justin Jefferson. But then you have these injuries. You just never know. You can never have too many corners. I feel like you can always figure that out if you go get a premier corner in the first round. Someone like Joey Porter Jr., Cam Smith, even Brian Branch, if he's your starting nickel corner, and then you do have St. Juste on the outside. And then you put Brian Branch as like your money backer in these big nickel, big dime packages. I can absolutely see that. And same with Christian Gonzalez, who is my new corner one, by the way. If you follow me on Twitter at Josh Taylor at B, wherever it's at, you've seen that and you've seen the videos I've been posting of him lately. He's a phenomenal corner. I think he is the most league ready out of all these guys, depending on your team. Maybe Joey Porter Jr. is, maybe Keely Ringo is. But then Broderick Jones, and you're looking at a left tackle of the future. This is the kind of guy you're looking for. Maybe Skronsky too. I think he's more of a left guard because of his arm length. But still, for Washington, what am I doing? Am I solidifying that offensive line right off the jump and, just getting that left tackle of the future? I'm not moving him to right tackle. Some people think Charles Leno had a great season. Some people think he had an awful year. I think he had a great season with a lot of awful moments in there, getting beat by some of these really young pass rushers. But if you listen to that press conference with Ron Rivera and Mayhew the other day, they said they need to get younger on the offensive line. They need to figure out why all these injuries are happening. So I think they definitely want to upgrade just about every position. But then you've got Leno on the left tackle. Who's your left guard? Is it going to be Norwell? Are you going to roll Chris Paul for the whole season, who looked pretty good against the Cowboys? Or, center, what do you do? Chase Roullier is hurt all the time. He's a huge cap hit next year. For me, I'm calling for him to get, released post June 1st because the dead cap is not bad at all. And then same with right guard. Are you moving Cosme right guard? Is Wes Schweitzer, do you re-sign him? And I think they absolutely should. I think Wes Schweitzer's been really good. I think he had a fluid transition to center, out of nowhere because he had to. But then right tackle, what does that look like? Gosh, we're hurting. Like Trey Turner's gone from the right guard spot. Lucas on the right tackle spot, I really don't know. There's really not a lot of right tackles in this spot. In this draft I'm super high on. I think DeJuan Jones and I'm super high on Darrell Wright, by the way, from Tennessee. He's probably my highest graded right tackle. But where are you going off the jump? And for me, this might get a lot of hate, but I'm not going Broderick Jones. I'm going with my cornerback one. I'm taking Christian Gonzalez because with a young quarterback, I'm going to build a line. Don't worry. Whether it's in free agency or whether it's in the draft, stay tuned. We'll see what happens. But for me, what really helps out a young quarterback and the kind of offense we run is just a dominant defense. And we saw how good our defense was. We were winning games. But having a guy like Christian Gonzalez, for me, he's corner one because he plays man and zone better than any of these other corners. I think he's the best zone corner in the draft. And if you really look at what Washington does, is primarily a zone defense, mix in some man coverage plays, of course. But he's just so fluid. His technique is so sound, and he has great ball skills. But more importantly, he's a sure tackler, great in the run support. He's not as physical as a Keely Ringo, as a Joey Porter Jr., as Cam Smith, but I'm okay with that. I love his technique. I love how he's always in position. I love his hip movement. But like I said, just in that zone coverage, he is always in position to make the play. You don't have to be the most physical on the field to win. And I just love what I see out of Christian Gonzalez, and this is why he's my new corner one. So I'm taking him off the board. So whether you move Fuller inside, which I really don't want to do, a lot of people have just already assumed that Ben St. Juste is the other starting corner. I don't know. Maybe you move him back inside where he played a little bit before William Jackson got traded. He played inside. Here we go. I was hoping he'd fall to me. We go corner one in the draft. Darnell Wright, who is just a straight up unit, 6'6", 335. He's played both spots, left tackle and right tackle at Tennessee. I loved him at right tackle. For me, I saw what he did against Alabama, and I'm an Alabama fan. I just saw him straight up bully Will Anderson sometimes, and Will Anderson is a generational pass rusher. I know you don't use that a lot, but I mean, like I said, he's played left tackle, right tackle. I think he's going to be really good at that right tackle spot. I love what he does. Very rarely did he get beat throughout the whole season. I'm through about 3 or 4 games of him right now, but that Alabama game just had me like just jaw on the floor. I was like, I think this is a guy that could sneak into the first round easily. So if he's there in the second round, Darnell Wright is absolutely the starting right tackle of the future. There's some things he needs to work on, but I think out of a lot of these guys, maybe DeJuan Jones is, your right tackle one. But for me, Darnell Wright is an absolute steal at this spot. You have to get him, solidify that right tackle spot, and maybe you do move Cosme to right guard, which I'm totally fine with. You can figure out the offensive line, but you have to get Darnell Wright. I'm not even going through the other guys on the list because it's not going to come close to what he can provide for you and really help out a young quarterback and then a team that's really establishing the run. Now, this is where it gets kind of tricky. We do need linebacker. I'm not going Isaiah Land, though. But I will tell you right off the jump who I'm getting. Oh, this draft's actually being super nice to me. I do really like Muhammad Diabate from Utah because outside of Jamin Davis, we have David Mayo, Hudson, Eifler, Holcomb, and Bostic are all free agents. I think Holcomb can come back. It just really depends if he thinks he can start somewhere else. But you've got to upgrade the position regardless. But I'm going to hold off on linebacker. For me, I'm going Ricky Stromberg because that center position is huge. He can also play at guard if you absolutely need to. But here, I'll zoom in because y'all can't really see this like I can see it on my screen. But 6'4", 310 pounds out of Arkansas, just a straight up unit. Like I said, I like Tyler Larson as that backup. But for me, Chase Roulier, 2 seasons now. He's only played 10 games in 2 seasons. And he is a $12.8 million cap hit next year. But if you wait post June 1st, you split an $8 million dead cap hit. So you split that in half, 2023 and 2024. I know, good guy, whatever, but for me, it's just strictly a business decision. I think Ricky Stromberg is a guy who can come in and be that starter, like kind of like what we got out of Chase Roulier. We give him the contract, but I think it's time to move on. I think Ricky Stromberg is a sure guy who can hold it down. Big old SEC boy. I love my SEC boys. But please give me Ricky Stromberg in the third with that comp pick. So you lose Brandon Sheriff. This is the pick you get for him, and you kind of solidify it with another, I believe, a long-term fix at that center spot. Really happy with how this is going so far, to be honest with you. Really happy about this. And now, of course, we are back on the clock in round 4. So let's just take a quick recap. We got Christian Gonzalez, corner 1, Darnell Wright, right tackle of the future, Ricky Stromberg, center of the future, building that offensive line. Honestly, this is an A+ for me so far. They don't usually go this well, but super satisfied with how this is going. And this is where things get a little juicy because some mock drafts, I do wait for Alex Forsythe out of Oregon for the center, or Olu, big-time Michigan guy, was at UVA, got to know him pretty well, his game. I liked him. He transferred to Michigan, ended up being the best center in college football last year. But there's some really good options, especially if you do want to go linebacker, which is kind of how I'm leaning here. Maybe you do go center. But actually, I'm going to do a little plot twist because this is one of my draft crushes, Jalen Graham. Some people on Twitter know I tweet out a couple of videos of him already too. Jalen Graham, he's a linebacker / center. I mean, not center, a safety for Purdue. 6'3", 220, kind of these hybrid guys. But I think he's a better pro prospect than he was, a college prospect. And he was a baller at Purdue, big time defensive guy for Purdue. But I think this guy, he can cover well. He's a hard hitter. He's a phenomenal run stopper. He can blitz the quarterback. If you have him and Jamin Davis at the linebacker spot, and I get it, some people are saying, the linebacker spot's not that important. I still think it is, especially when it's covering, these athletic tight ends, the Kittles, the Kelseys, and so on. I still think it is an important position to cover that middle of the field, especially if he's a great run stopper too. That for me is what really separates linebackers. Not only can you cover these athletic guys, but are you a sure tackler? Can you blitz the quarterback? And for me, Jalen Graham checks all the boxes. I know a lot of guys in the draft community. This is like their low key, under the radar guy. So give me Jalen Graham with Jamin Davis next to him. You can play him as a money backer, in these big packages as well. So let's take a look one more time. We got our corner, we got our tackle, we got our center, we got our linebacker. So let's see what else falls to us and really just get the best out of what's coming up. So, this one, I already know I'm going to pick, and some of y'all could probably guess. So we have running back, tight end, running back, wide receiver, tight end, corner, running back, quarterback. For me, I've already talked about it plenty of times. I think it's time to move on from Logan Thomas. I get it. He had a bad injury. He's coming back from it. Maybe he just needs some more time, but he's just not as effective. Say what you want about him as a blocker, but we just need that possible tight end one kind of guy. I know we just drafted Cole Turner, but he's more just a receiving thread guy. He's still really working on that blocking. And same with Bates. He's a really good blocker, but just the receiving game's still really not there. He's not as much of a threat. He had some good moments this season. Don't get me wrong. But Thomas, almost a $9 million cap hit next year. Dead cap hit. If we cut him, release him, whatever, only $3.5 million. Once again, post June 1st, that splits in half. So you can do that, whatever. For me, we need to upgrade at the tight end position. I'm not, I can't stress it enough how important it is to have a tight end in today's league. Luke Musgrave, really athletic guy for Oregon State. 6'6", 249, just a legit receiving threat. He can really work on his blocking. He's not terrible. Whoops, let's not do that. But still, that for me, that's his room for improvement. Get a little bit stronger. But if you can have that outside tight end, like I don't want, if Bates is in, we know it's probably going to be a run. Might be a pass, but you're not really too worried about Bates. And Turner's in, he's catching. He's not really blocking that much. So for me, I really want to upgrade that position. Maybe you go Luke Schoonmaker out of Michigan, but I really like the upside, the athletic ability of Luke Musgrave out of Oregon State. So I'm taking my tight end here, knocking that off the board. Darnell Wright's a guy I've taken in the second round a couple times out of Georgia, just a big time freak. Oh, I would love to have Darnell Washington, but I think I said Darnell Wright. I don't know. But Darnell Washington out of Georgia, big time tight end. That'd be good. Same with Tucker Kraft. All right. So we are now in round 6. Only got 2 more picks left. Let's take a look at what we got. We got some wide receivers. Parker Washington out of Penn State. We got some edge, another tight end, safety, tight end. So really here, just late in the draft, like what is the best players that are falling to us? We already have our tight end. God forbid we don't pay Dron Payne. Do we need an interior D tackle? I don't know. I think we're smart enough to pay him. If we're not smart enough to pay Dron Payne, like we've got problems. Do you take another corner for depth because we don't really have that much depth? Do you take a safety if we do move on from Bobby McCain, even though he's not really much of a safety anymore? Or do you go Brenton Cox edge? I know we've got a lot of edges on our team, but of course, Sweat's got one more year. You got Chase Young. You got some depth behind them, but I don't know. I feel like you never have too many edge rushers. But for me, I'm really taking a look at best player available. I've already taken some linebackers. This is actually a tricky one. I'm going to go with best available. I'm going to go DeMarco Helms, I think, because I like the upside DeMarco Helms at that safety spot. I've watched his whole career at Alabama, so I'm a fan of him. I like what he can do. We're adding some depth there. If we do move on from Bobby McCain, I think Forrest has shown that he can be that free safety spot. We got Percy Butler, another strong safety backup. A special teams guy, you just never know. So I'm going to go ahead and get my guy, DeMarco Helms out of Alabama, to add to that safety room. Where we've got a lot of young guys, a lot of potential. For me, just taking the best player available. You don't just draft and say, oh, well, I think we've got that covered for a while. You never know. Injuries happen. Like I said, special teams players, you just never know. You've got to make sure you're covered and keep building on that. So this is our last pick. Last pick. Let's see what we're going to do here. There's a couple times I've taken wide receiver, to be honest with you, because Cam Sims is a free agent. Sometimes I go D tackle because I think we'll use a lot of more 5-2 coming up. Really couldn't this year because of the injuries, of course. Didn't help when Big Phil Mathis got hurt. So I think we will run some 5-2. We did see some of the Ridgeway coming in. Maybe I go D tackle. Maybe I could do Keandre Coburn out of Texas. Maybe I go Jaden Hasselwood out of Arkansas. Get a kind of a wide receiver that could possibly replace Cam Sims, or Dante Demas out of Maryland. That'd be someone a lot of people goes after. But actually, I know exactly who I'm going to get. I'm going to take a potential depth at guard here. I think we have some good guard options, and it's a really good guard free agency. So if we don't just land a guard in this draft, or if you do play Ricky Stromberg at guard, you have that option. But I'm going to go with a depth guy, Matthew Bedford. I've watched him a good bit from Indiana, 6'6", 310. Obviously, I cover Penn State, so I watch Big Ten. But he's just a name that I've seen come up a couple times. So I'm going to go with a potential depth piece. You just never know. 7th round. This could be the guards, the Cam Curl of the guards. Matthew Bedford out of Indiana. You can never have too many guards because there's 2 different spots you got to fill. So I'm super happy with this mock draft, to be honest with you. Let me just zoom in a little bit. Christian Gonzalez gives you that corner 1. Just starting out opposite of Kendall Fuller. Darnell Wright, that long-term right tackle of the future. Ricky Stromberg, that center that's going to hold it down for you if you don't move on from Chase Roulier. Then maybe Ricky Stromberg's your starting guard. But I think he has a lot of upside. I think he is an NFL-ready offensive lineman. Same with Jalen Graham. I think he's going to be a phenomenal pro athlete. I think he's an NFL guy. I think he fits really what the NFL is right now on defense. So I think him next to Jamin Davis would be huge. Luke Musgrave, big-time athletic tight end, legit receiving threat. I get it. We've drafted 2 the last 2 years. But I'm really looking to move on from Logan Thomas and, Carson Wentz too, obviously, and using that money to pay Cam Curl, pay Deron Payne. Maybe we keep Montez Sweat. Who knows? Pay him already. Whatever. And then DeMarco Hellams adding some depth to safety. Another young guy in that room. I think he could definitely grow. You just never know. Like I said, special teams, whatever. And then Matthew Bedford, offensive guard out of Indiana. So let me know what y'all think about this. I think it's a pretty daggone solid mock draft. I'm happy with it. It really gives you some options moving forward. 2 free agents where you do have to make these moves, whether if you decide to let go of Chase Roulier, or you move Logan Thomas, or you fill in that big time need at offensive line. Linebackers. What if Cole Holcomb gets offered more somewhere else because he's going to start somewhere? Whatever it is, I think this gives you a lot of good options. So hope y'all enjoyed it. Appreciate y'all tuning in and sticking with my patience of running through mock drafts. Sometimes I'm doing these for hours. It's kind of sad. But really looking forward to doing more of these and breaking down these individual prospects. Like I said, doing interviews, going to the Senior Bowl, talking to guys there, giving you a lot of content. So hit that subscribe button. Stay tuned to the channel because it's going to be a fun off season here on the JTFB YouTube channel. I'll see y'all on the next episode. Peace.